Imagine a night where the sky above Washington, D.C. seemed calm and unassuming. A night that would soon be marred by a series of events so complex and intertwined that they defied every expectation of routine aviation safety. What if everything you believed about air travel safety was built on a series of oversights, small miscommunications, and equipment limitations? Tonight, we dive into the heart of a collision that rocked the aviation world. A collision where every detail mattered, and even the tiniest error set off a chain reaction leading to unspeakable tragedy. At the core of this tragedy was Flight 5342, a routine PSA Airlines flight carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members. The pilots, seasoned professionals with years of experience, were expertly guiding their aircraft on its final approach to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. The weather conditions were favorable, and all indicators suggested that the flight would conclude safely. However, moments before touchdown, everything took an unforeseen turn. One of the most alarming factors contributing to the unfolding disaster was the state of the air traffic control at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. For years, the facility had grappled with a chronic shortage of air traffic controllers. On the night in question, staffing levels were so diminished that a single controller was forced to manage both fixed-wing aircraft and rotary-wing operations simultaneously, a task that typically requires undivided attention and strict separation of duties during peak periods. Under such pressure, even the most experienced controller can find it nearly impossible to maintain flawless oversight, and this very shortage became one of the critical sparks that ignited the catastrophe. The Black Hawk's crew, like many military aviators on night missions, relied on night vision goggles to enhance their ability to see in low-light conditions. While these devices significantly improve forward visibility, they also come with a drawback: a markedly reduced field of peripheral vision. Against the backdrop of a cityscape illuminated by countless lights, the helicopter pilots found it increasingly difficult to spot potential hazards emerging from the edges of their view. The combination of restricted vision and the confusing interplay of artificial lights made it nearly impossible for them to detect an oncoming threat until it was almost too late. As both aircraft drew inexorably closer, a collision alert blared throughout the cockpit and control tower alike. This warning was not just an electronic beep or a flashing light, it was the harbinger of a calamity that would soon engulf the skies above the nation's capital. In that brief, terrifying interval, every decision made by the pilots and controllers would be scrutinized in the aftermath. Could a different route have been chosen? Was there a moment when a clearer communication might have averted the disaster? These questions would later fuel an extensive investigation into the root causes of the collision. Emergency response teams were among the first on the scene. Responders from Washington, D.C., Maryland State Police, the U.S. Coast Guard, and various fire and rescue units mobilized with unprecedented urgency. The conditions, however, were far from ideal. The river, with its near-freezing temperatures and strong currents, presented an additional layer of peril for the rescue crews. Every minute counted as first responders raced against time to reach survivors and contain the aftermath of the crash. In the days that followed, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, launched a full-scale investigation into the incident. What they discovered was a complex tapestry of contributing factors. The investigation revealed that the collision was not solely the result of pilot error, nor could it be attributed to a single mechanical failure. Instead, it was the cumulative outcome of multiple small oversights, each one compounding the next until disaster was unavoidable. Key among these oversights was the persistent issue of understaffing within the air traffic control system. The controller on duty that night was managing a level of complexity that no single individual should ever have to bear. The consolidation of tasks that were previously handled by multiple controllers meant that every instruction was delivered under intense pressure, with little room for error. This systemic flaw in airspace management has since spurred calls for urgent reforms to ensure that such tragedies are never repeated. Moreover, the investigation brought to light the limitations of the equipment used by the Black Hawk's crew. The night vision goggles, while invaluable in low-light conditions, were not without their drawbacks. Their design inherently restricted peripheral vision and impaired depth perception, a critical factor when judging distances between moving objects. This technological limitation, compounded by the visual distractions caused by the city's illuminated skyline, left the helicopter pilots vulnerable to misjudging the rapidly closing distance of the oncoming aircraft. The reassignment of Flight 5342 to runway 33 was another pivotal moment. The decision, made in the midst of a busy and understaffed control tower, forced the jet into an unconventional approach that placed it directly in harm's way. The ensuing sidestep maneuver was not merely a change in direction, it was a high-risk operation that demanded impeccable timing and coordination. In this instance, the margin for error was virtually non-existent, and the consequences of any miscalculation were catastrophic. The collision itself, which occurred in a matter of heartbeats, has since become a case study in how interconnected failures in aviation safety can lead to disaster. Experts in the field have argued that while each component of the system, the aircraft technology, the pilot training, and the air traffic control protocols, met established safety standards on paper, the convergence of minor errors created a scenario in which a tragedy was inevitable. This collision forced a hard look at the way modern airspace is managed and underscored the urgent need for a comprehensive review of aviation safety procedures. In the weeks and months after the accident, industry experts and government officials alike called for sweeping reforms. Enhanced communication protocols, improved air traffic controller staffing, and updated training methods for operating under low-visibility conditions were among the measures recommended by the investigative teams. The hope was that by addressing these systemic issues, future incidents could be prevented, and the overall safety of air travel could be significantly improved. But beyond the technicalities and bureaucratic debates, the human cost of the collision resonated deeply. 60 passengers, 4 crew members, and the 3 members of the Black Hawk's team all paid the ultimate price on that fateful night. Their lives, and the lives of those who would later be affected by the ripple effects of this tragedy, serve as a somber reminder of the stakes involved in every decision made within the realm of aviation. Before we continue dissecting the technical intricacies of the accident, let's take a moment to acknowledge a vital partner in uncovering these details. This investigation was aided by resources provided by Ground.News, a platform dedicated to aggregating global news and shedding light on stories that might otherwise remain hidden from public view. Ground.News offers an unbiased, comprehensive look at events from multiple perspectives, ensuring that every piece of the puzzle is brought into focus. Their commitment to transparency and independent journalism has proven invaluable in situations like these, where the full story must be told. Returning to the events of that fateful night, the altered flight path of Flight 5342 played a crucial role in the ensuing disaster. As the aircraft executed its final approach, the need to realign with runway 33 meant that it had to navigate a precarious trajectory over the Potomac River. In doing so, it inadvertently intersected the training zone of the Black Hawk. With both aircraft now occupying the same segment of airspace, the possibility of collision became a stark and horrifying reality. At the moment when the collision alert was activated, every second seemed to stretch into an eternity. The cockpit of Flight 5342 was filled with urgent radio transmissions, as the pilots attempted to communicate with air traffic control and each other in a desperate bid to alter their course. The single controller, overwhelmed by the demands of managing multiple aircraft in a complex environment, did everything in their power to issue timely and clear instructions. Yet the situation had already escalated beyond salvageable control. Simultaneously, the Black Hawk crew was grappling with the inherent limitations of their equipment. Their night vision goggles, which had been a critical asset during the training mission, now became a liability as they struggled to detect the rapidly approaching threat from the side. The ambient glow of the city's lights, which normally provided a comforting backdrop to their mission, instead blurred the lines between safety and peril. The combination of these factors meant that by the time the collision became imminent, there was little left for the pilots to do. In the split seconds leading up to the impact, the collision warning system emitted a series of alarms, a final desperate cry to avert the inevitable. Despite the rapid succession of alerts and the frantic actions taken by both the commercial jet and the military helicopter, the window for a successful evasion had closed. The aircraft collided with a force that shattered not only metal and glass, but also the collective sense of invulnerability that modern aviation had long enjoyed. In the aftermath of the collision, the scene that unfolded was one of chaos and devastation. The Black Hawk, once a symbol of military precision, was torn apart mid-air, its remnants scattering like confetti over the dark waters of the Potomac. The commercial jet, suffering critical structural damage, lost control and plummeted toward the ground in a spiral of destruction. Emergency services, already stretched thin by the sheer scale of the disaster, mobilized on all fronts to rescue survivors and secure the crash site. Yet, even as heroic efforts were underway, the full scope of the tragedy began to emerge, a grim tally of lives lost and questions left unanswered. As investigators sifted through the wreckage in the days that followed, they uncovered a mosaic of systemic failures. The shortage of air traffic controllers, the limitations imposed by night vision technology, and the precarious nature of last-minute flight path changes all converged to create a scenario where disaster was not a matter of if, but when. The investigation underscored the importance of every single decision made in the control tower and in the cockpit. Decisions that, when compounded by even the smallest oversight, could alter the course of events in ways that no one could have foreseen. This collision forced a reckoning within the aviation community. Industry experts debated the adequacy of current safety protocols, calling for an urgent overhaul of systems that had, until now, been taken for granted. Proposals emerged for increased staffing at air traffic control centers, the development of more advanced and comprehensive pilot training programs, and the integration of next-generation technology designed to provide more robust situational awareness for all aircraft. The hope was that by addressing these vulnerabilities head-on, the aviation industry could prevent a recurrence of such a tragedy in the future. Yet, amid the technical analyses and policy debates, one truth remained undeniable: the loss of life was irreplaceable. The families, friends, and communities affected by this catastrophe would never forget the night when the skies turned deadly, when a series of missteps culminated in a disaster that could have been avoided with better systems, better communication, and a deeper commitment to safety. As we piece together the evidence, we are left with a haunting question: what was hidden from the public? In a world where every incident is dissected and every detail scrutinized, it is both shocking and unsettling to realize how many factors, both human and technological, can conspire to bring down even the most advanced aircraft. The revelations emerging from the investigation challenge long-held assumptions about aviation safety and call into question the effectiveness of systems that are supposed to protect us. For those of you who share our fascination with aviation mysteries and the relentless pursuit of truth, we invite you to join us on this journey. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay with us as we continue to unravel the layers of this complex and tragic event. With every new piece of evidence and every expert analysis, we get closer to understanding not only what went wrong that night, but also how we can ensure that such a calamity never happens again. The Black Hawk collision is more than just a case study in technical failure. It is a sobering reminder of the human cost of systemic error. It is a story of courage and tragedy, of brilliant minds pushed to their limits in the face of overwhelming odds. And it is a call to action for all those who believe that in the realm of aviation, there is always room for improvement. In the end, the truth is found in the details. Every miscommunication, every flawed procedure, and every moment of hesitation contributed to a disaster that will be remembered for generations. And while the investigation continues to peel back the layers of this tragic event, one thing remains certain: the lessons learned from this collision must lead to meaningful change. Only then can we honor the memory of those who lost their lives and ensure that future skies are a little safer for everyone. Thank you for watching this in-depth exploration of the events leading up to the Black Hawk collision. Stay tuned for more updates as new evidence comes to light and experts provide further insights into what went wrong, and what must be done to prevent such tragedies in the future. Remember, in aviation as in life, it is often the unseen details that hold the power to change everything.